Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you are watching this. And thank you, General Neelendra Kumar, for inviting me to give this talk for aspiring law teachers and law students. My field is communication because I am a journalist, so I write. In fact, I write more than I talk. So our business is basically communicating with the people who are not experts in any field. There could be experts who may be reading us. They may be just graduates or even matriculates who may be reading us. They are just literate, so they may not have the knowledge like an expert would have on law or any subject. But it's very important to communicate to them also. So the purpose of my talk here is basically how to do it. What are the tools of that kind of communication? When you communicate with the people who are not experts, it's much more difficult actually because you have to explain a lot more. But without going using too many words, how do you explain things? That's what I try to explain to you here. I'll just title it Writing with a Human Touch, because it's human touch that is very, very important. In fact, the magazine I write for is The Week. We have our motto, journalism with a human touch. Human touch is very important in writing, in communicating with the people. So I'll start with I'll be basically looking at how you, legal professionals or legal teachers of law, would have to communicate. When you communicate to the people, your clients or your readers, you may be often asked to write articles. We often ask expert lawyers, senior lawyers, or people who are specialized in certain aspects of the law to write articles for us. And you would find in newspapers what we call the op-edit, the leader page. There will be articles, signed articles by experts. So how do you communicate through that sort of articles to the public on subjects subjects that or topics of interest, topics from the law which are of interest to the public? That is what I'm trying to say. As I said, it's writing with a human touch. I start with an experience that I had a few years back. I think it was in 2016. There was a news item in several of the Delhi newspapers that an Air Force cadet who had been accused or found to have stolen an ATM card, a bank card. He didn't steal it, he found it and used it because he found the pin also on that. And he drew some money, but then he felt bad, so he surrendered it. In fact, he kept it under the pillow of the person of his buddy who owned it. But he was found out. There were proceedings at the Air Force Academy. He was only a cadet at that time. There was a proceedings against him in the Air Force Academy, and he was rusticated. He was thrown out. Now he filed a case. His father filed a case. His father is a poor villager from Himachal or somewhere, from Uttarakhand. He filed a case in the High Court. The High Court found that the Air Force had not adopted the correct procedures, the procedures for rusticating him. In fact, he had not been given a chance to defend himself. All the procedures that were there had to be followed. It didn't go into the merits of the case, but only into the question of whether the procedures had been followed, and found that the Air Force had not followed it. The Academy had not followed the procedures. So they give a direction to the Air Force to consider his case afresh and go through all the procedures that had to be gone through. And that's it, that left it there. Now, that was a small news item which appeared in several newspapers, and everybody reported it like that. But when I read it, it rang a bell. Well, this is something I had read about somewhere else. We call it the deja vu. Hey, isn't it something like that to happen to somebody else? I started thinking, then I remembered it was a Winslow Boy case in more than 100 years ago in the Royal Navy in England. A cadet was similarly found to have, they found him to have taken a postal order that belonged to another boy and cashed it and sent it for some buying some something that was available on the post at that time. So that was it, and they found him guilty, rusticated him, and his father fought the case just like in this case. and the case went on to, it became one of the most sensational cases in English law. It's called the Martin Asher case. It was later fictionalized as the Winslow Boy case. It became a play, it became a movie. And then there also, finally, the court found that they had not adopted the procedures correctly. And there, the one difference was that they found him innocent also. In this case, that was no. So when I looked at it, the steps that each one had, the stages of that case that both had gone through were exactly similar to each other. There was here it was an ATM card, and it was a postal order. That was the only difference. Otherwise, it was the same. And also there was the other very interesting question. The boy had found the English boy. He had found this postal order in the locker room of his friend, and here he found it also in the locker room. But what was he doing in the locker room for long hours? That was also found to be, the English boy was smoking a cigarette on the slide, which he could not reveal. Here, this boy was looking for a cigarette. Even it's deja vu, incredible. So what we did was, we thought about it, we contacted the boy, we got the copy of the judgment, and then we juxtaposed these both cases. The first few paragraphs of that case, of the 100-year-old case, the next few paragraphs of the Indian case, like that, juxtaposing each stage of that drama, of that courtroom drama and all that, and made it a 3 or 4 page article. You wouldn't, we didn't expect that kind of a reaction from our readers. It went really viral. Nearly, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of readers, online, our web edition, it went copies. People were reading about it in England, elsewhere, and all that, wherever, English law is there in all the English-speaking countries. So it went viral. So that's the power of communication, when you bring in human element. That's all what we did. What was otherwise a simple 3-paragraph or 4-paragraph news item in a newspaper became a human drama. It's a story of a human drama, of the pangs of two people separated by more than a century. So that's what human element is. Now, you can't bring in that sort of element in every story, because that sort of elements are not there. But there are certain differences when you write and we write. You think in when you present an article or your case, you always think of the majesty of the law. We think of the people. Your readers are experts. You're writing basically for the court, the lawyers, the judges, and all that. We write for the people. So that big difference is there between these two. And your readers are lettered in law. Our readers are not lettered in law. That's why the communication is much more important here.